It's no secret that the mortgage you sign today has almost nothing to do with the free market, and most people have absolutely no idea why. Because the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, the thing that lets millions of Americans buy homes they couldn't otherwise afford, didn't come from some brilliant banking innovation. It came from one of the worst financial disasters in American history. And here's the thing nobody tells you when you're sitting across from a loan officer, filling out paperwork. The entire modern mortgage system was built as emergency duct tape slapped over a collapse so catastrophic that it nearly destroyed homeownership in America entirely. I'm talking about the housing crash of the early 1930s, not the 2008 version. Not the one with mortgage-backed securities and credit default swaps that everyone loves to make movies about. I'm talking about the original, the one that made 2008 look like a minor inconvenience by comparison. Because when this bubble popped, foreclosures didn't just rise, they went vertical. At the peak, roughly 1,000 homes were being foreclosed on every single day in the United States. And the system that caused it wasn't complicated. It was just extraordinarily fragile. And fragile systems, when they break, tend to break everything around them. To understand what happened, you have to rewind to the 1920s, because the United States was riding high. The economy was growing, new construction was booming, and Americans were buying homes like it was a national sport. But here's the part that should make your stomach drop. The mortgages they were using looked almost nothing like the ones we have today. Back then, the standard mortgage was a balloon loan. You'd put down somewhere between 40 and 50% of the purchase price upfront, which alone kept most working-class families completely locked out of homeownership. Then you'd borrow the rest, typically for a term of just 3 to 5 years, paying only interest the entire time. And at the end of that term, the entire remaining principal came due at once, the full balance, in one payment. And why wouldn't lenders love this structure? It was extremely profitable for banks, and it kept them constantly liquid. But for borrowers, you weren't actually paying down debt. You were just renting money and hoping the bank would agree to refinance you when the balloon came due. The whole system was built on the assumption that property values would keep rising, that credit would always be available, and that the economy would stay healthy enough to keep everyone employed. Which is to say, the entire system was built on 3 assumptions that collapsed simultaneously between 1929 and 1933. Because when the stock market crashed in October of 1929, it didn't just destroy portfolios. It froze credit markets completely. Banks stopped lending, property values started falling, and suddenly, millions of homeowners were reaching the end of their 3 to 5 year balloon terms with no way to refinance. The bank wanted its money back and nobody had it. The foreclosure numbers from this period are genuinely difficult to process. By 1933, nearly half of all mortgages in the United States were technically in default. Home prices had collapsed somewhere between 25 and 50% depending on the market. And here's the real gut punch. Because banks were failing at the same time, they weren't even waiting for balloon terms to expire. Some were calling loans early just to stay solvent, which meant homeowners were getting eviction notices on properties they had been making consistent payments on. Farmers were getting forcibly removed from land their families had worked for generations. There were literal riots. In Iowa, a group of farmers showed up to a foreclosure auction, physically intimidated any outside bidders into walking away, and then purchased the farm back for a few dollars and returned it to the owner. That wasn't an isolated incident. Penny auctions, they called them. And they spread across the Midwest like wildfire because when the system turns predatory, people find creative ways to push back. But creativity doesn't stop a systemic collapse. And by 1933, new home construction had fallen over 80% from its 1920s peak. 80%. The entire housing market had basically stopped functioning. And because housing was such a central part of the broader economy, the collapse there fed directly into unemployment, into consumer spending, into everything. The fragility of the balloon mortgage system didn't just ruin individual families. It became one of the structural accelerants of the Great Depression itself. What made this period particularly devastating was the social fabric that tore apart in the process. Suicide rates among middle-aged men spiked dramatically during the early 1930s. Divorce rates climbed as the stress of foreclosure and unemployment shattered marriages. Families doubled up in single homes, with multiple generations crowded together out of necessity rather than preference. Children were withdrawn from school not because of truancy laws, but because families couldn't afford new clothes or shoes as the old ones wore through. There was a cultural shame attached to foreclosure that ran deep, even though millions were experiencing it simultaneously. Communities that had seemed stable and prosperous just a few years earlier developed breadlines and soup kitchens. Whole neighborhoods transformed into scenes of visible desperation. And perhaps most crucially, Americans lost faith in the very concept of homeownership. If saving for years and making consistent payments could still result in sudden eviction, what was the point? The American dream of owning a home didn't just become financially difficult during this period, it became psychologically poisoned. Banks became viewed with open hostility, and rightfully so. They had profited enormously from the boom years and then turned around and evicted families without mercy during the bust. This wasn't just an economic crisis anymore. It was a crisis of legitimacy for the entire system. So, the federal government stepped in, and this is where everything changed. In 1933, the Roosevelt administration created the Homeowners Loan Corporation, which bought up distressed mortgages from failing banks and refinanced them on dramatically better terms for homeowners. It refinanced roughly 1 million loans in its first few years. But that was just the beginning, because in 1934, Congress passed the National Housing Act, which created the Federal Housing Administration. And what the FHA did was fundamentally restructure how mortgages worked in America. Because instead of the old balloon system with its massive down payments and short terms, the FHA began insuring long-term, fully amortizing mortgages. Loans where you actually paid down principal every single month. The terms stretch your rates by out first to 15 years, then eventually to 20 and 30 years. Down payments dropped from 40 to 50%, down to somewhere around 20%. And because the federal government was now backstopping the default risk, banks were willing to lend on these new terms at scale. Then, in 1938, the government went even further and created the Federal National Mortgage Association, which most people know today as Fannie Mae. And Fannie Mae's job was to buy these FHA-insured mortgages from banks, freeing up fresh capital so banks could go lend again. This secondary market for mortgages was a completely new concept. It meant that a local bank in Ohio didn't have to hold a 30-year loan on its books for 3 decades. It could sell that loan to Fannie Mae and turn around and make another one. And that secondary market is still the backbone of how American mortgage lending works today. Now, if you're sitting there thinking this all sounds like ancient history with zero relevance to your current mortgage rate, here's why you'd be wrong. Because the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage that is now considered the default American homeownership product doesn't exist naturally. It exists because the government engineered it out of disaster. And that engineering created a system with its own deep structural quirks. Because the 30-year fixed rate means your mortgage payment doesn't move, but it also means you're paying an enormous premium for that stability. Over a 30-year loan, a typical homeowner pays somewhere between 60 and 100% of the original purchase price, again in pure interest. And because Fannie Mae and its sibling, Freddie Mac, effectively backstop trillions in mortgage debt, the mortgage market has become one of the most government-dependent financial markets on the planet. Which is why when the 10-year Treasury yield moves, mortgage rates move with it. And which is also why when Japanese institutions reduce their Treasury holdings, as we've seen recently, the knock-on effects land directly in your mortgage rate, not just in some abstract bond market. The modern mortgage didn't emerge from innovation, it emerged from catastrophe. And the system it created, while genuinely transformative for American home ownership rates, came loaded with dependencies that most borrowers never think about when they sign a 30-year note. Warren Buffett once said that you only find out who's swimming naked when the tide goes out. The tide went out in 1929, and the swimsuit the government handed everyone afterward is the mortgage market you're dealing with today.